What is the average life like in Warhammer 40k? I used to wonder that myself before I became just another number in the vast machine of the Imperium. They say the Emperor protects, but I have seen what happens when his gaze turns away. Yesterday, 20 million souls in Hive Turt were burned to ash for suspected heresy. Today we give thanks. It was not our Hive. Tomorrow. Tomorrow is never promised to those who toil in the shadow of the Golden Throne. How long can one survive when mere existence is an endless exercise in terror? I remember the exact moment I stopped screaming. It was not when the first skin graft failed, nor when the augment spine attachment punctured my kidney, not even when they bolted the respirator mask to my face without anesthetics. No. I stopped screaming when I realized no one could hear me over the machines, that no one would hear me for the next 50 years of service, that no one would ever care to listen. My name is Jor Halden, worker designation KTH404729J, and this is what it means to live in the Imperium of man. The lumen strips above my sleep chamber flicker to life, casting harsh white illumination across the HAB unit. The activation hymn blares through the wall-mounted Vox unit, its tiny quality doing little to diminish its volume. The same 14 notes I have heard every day for 26 years. My body responds before my mind awakens, legs swinging over the edge of my cot, hands reaching for the prayer cloth beside my pillow. Blessed is the mind too small for doubt, I whisper, pressing the tattered fabric to my forehead. The words mean nothing to me now, but ritual is what separates us from the void. Ritual is what makes us human. The SHAB unit measures exactly 2.7 minor by 1.9 minor. Standing in its center, I can touch both walls with outstretched arms. Every surface bears the marks of previous occupants. Names carved into metal, tally marks scratched into paint, a crude drawing of what might be a sun, though I doubt whoever drew it had ever seen one. The air recycler rattles as it pushes stale air through the grill, carrying with it the familiar scent of promethium and human waste. I fold the prayer cloth precisely, aligning its corners before placing it inside the small shrine to the God Emperor built into the wall. The shrine came with the HAB unit. To remove it would be heresy. I have never been devout, but neither am I a fool. My uniform hangs from a hook on the wall, stiff with dried sweat and machine oil. The fabric is coarse against my skin as I pull it on, the collar rubbing against old scars. The manufacturum sigil is emblazed across the back, the stylized cog of the Adeptus Mechanicus overlaid with the Imperial Aquila. My designation number runs down the left sleeve in faded black lettering. The nutrient dispenser chimes, signaling my morning ration. I press my palm against the identification plate, wincing slightly as the machine draws blood to confirm my identity. A moment later, a bowl of gray protein slurry drops into the collection tray. Machine God, bless this sustenance that I might serve another day. I intone the words mechanical and empty. The prayer is not required, but those who observe proper rituals tend to live longer. The cameras in the corners of the room record everything. The slurry tastes of nothing, a carefully calibrated blend of proteins, carbohydrates, and synthetic vitamins. It fills the stomach but never satisfies. I have not tasted real food in decades. Sometimes I dream of fruit, though I cannot remember what it tastes like. As I eat, I check the notification panel beside the door. Work assignments, civil defense warnings, execution notices. The screen flickers between messages, each displayed for precisely 5 seconds before cycling to the next. Section 12, Level 47, Production Line C. Water rationing in effect, 2L per day. 17 executions scheduled for sedition. Thought for the day. Innocence proves nothing. I commit my assignment to memory. Section 12 means a 12-hour shift assembling last guns. The work is precise and dangerous. Last week, Alan from the neighboring HAB unit lost 3 fingers when his concentration slipped. The augment replacements cost him 6 months of rations. He thanked the foreman for the opportunity to continue serving. The chronometer on the wall chimes the 10-minute warning. I finish the slurry, wipe the bowl clean with my finger and place it back in the dispenser. Waste nothing. The Emperor provides, but his patience is not infinite. That is what the propagandists say anyway. My boots are worn at the heels, but still serviceable. I lace them tightly, tucking the frayed ends of the laces into the tops to prevent them from catching in machinery. Small precautions mean survival. I have seen men drawn into grinding gears because of untucked shirts or loose hair. In the narrow mirror above the sink, a stranger stares back at me. Pale skin stretched tight over sharp cheekbones, deep-set eyes, bloodshot and weary gray hair cropped close to the scalp. According to regulation, the respirator mask covers the lower half of my face. Its filters blackened from years of filtering toxic air. The flesh around its edges is red and irritated, never fully healing from where it was grafted to my skin. I do not recognize myself anymore. I am what the Imperium has made me. The door to my hab unit slides open at exactly 50 hours. The corridor beyond teems with bodies moving in the same direction. A river of gray uniforms and hunched shoulders. No one speaks. Energy wasted on conversation is energy not spent serving the Emperor. I join the flow, careful to maintain proper distance from those ahead and behind. The corridor narrows as it approaches the transit elevators, forcing us closer together. The smell of unwashed bodies mingles with machine oil and recycled air. Someone coughs, the sound muffled by a respirator. The wait for the elevators is always the worst part of the morning. Hundreds of workers packed into too smaller space. Each numbered and cataloged, each replaceable. The temperature rises with so many bodies pressed together. Sweat trickles down my back, cold against my skin. Servitors patrol the edges of the crowd, their human components long since stripped of identity. Augmentatic limbs whir softly as they scan the crowd for signs of disorder. Their eyes, mechanical and unblinking, pass over us without recognition. Maintain order. They intone in flat, synthesized voices. Disruption of transit is disruption of production. Disruption of production is heresy against the Omnissiah. No one needs the reminder. We have all seen the punishment for disruption. The elevator arrives with a groan of protesting metal. Its doors slide open to reveal an already crowded car. Somehow we pack ourselves in tighter. Bodies press against me from all sides. Someone's elbow digs into my kidney. I do not complain. No one does. The descent to the manufacturum levels is swift and stomach-churning. 50 levels down in less than 30 seconds. My ears pop painfully as pressure changes. The man beside me vomits inside his respirator. The sound wet and choking. No one acknowledges it. The shame is punishment enough. Level 47 is deep within the hive, far from sunlight or fresh air. As the elevator doors open, the heat and noise hit me like a physical blow. Massive forges burn day and night, their fires never extinguished. Assembly lines stretch into the distance, vanishing into steam and smoke. Servitors and tech priests move between workstations, their red robes stark against the industrial gray of the surroundings. I make my way to Section 12, passing through 3 security checkpoints. At each, my identity is verified. Retinal scan, blood sample, designation, recitation. The guards are brutal in their efficiency, processing hundreds of workers without pause or error. The final checkpoint requires a prayer of passage. I kneel before the shrine of the machine god, press my forehead to the cold metal floor, and recite the words that grant access to the holy work of production from the weakness of the mind. Omnissiah, save us from the lies of the antipath. Circuit, preserve us from the rage of the beast. Iron, protect us from the temptations of the flesh. Silica, cleanse us from the ravages of time. Anima, shield us from this rotting cage of biomatter. Machine god, set us free. The tech priest overseer, more machine than man, nods in approval. The gates to Section 12 slide open with a hiss of hydraulics. Production line C awaits, its conveyor belts already moving, carrying partially assembled las guns from station to station. I take my position at workstation 47C23. My job is to align the focusing crystal and secure it within the barrel housing. The crystals are valuable, worth more than my life. Damaging one is punishable by immediate execution. My hands, despite years of practice, tremble slightly as I reach for the first one. The shift begins. Time loses meaning as I repeat the same precise movements over and over. Lift crystal with magnetic pincers. Examine for flaws. Rotate to alignment markers. Lower into housing. Secure with 3-4 turns of the calibration key. Press activation rune to test. Move to next unit. Above the production line, a massive view screen displays propaganda films without sound. Imperial victories against Xenos threats. Planetary governors rewarding productive citizens with extra rations. Commissars executing deserters. The images blur together after a while, becoming background to the rhythm of work. Servitors move up and down the line, collecting completed assemblies and delivering new components. One stops beside me, its mostly human face frozen in an expression of perpetual surprise. The tech priests leave these expressions intact as a reminder of what awaits those who fail in their duties. Worker KTH44729J. It says its voice, a metallic approximation of human speech. Your production rate has decreased by 3.7% compared to previous shift averages. I work faster. ignoring the ache in my shoulders and back. The servitor watches for 37 seconds before continuing its rounds. A warning. Then the next time it might not be so lenient. By midday, the muscles in my lower back are spasming painfully. The augment spine attachments installed during my induction surgery were never properly calibrated. They support my skeleton but cause chronic inflammation where metal meets flesh. The pain is constant, varying only in intensity. A bell signals the 5-minute nutrition break. I step back from the workstation, careful to leave everything in precise order. The line does not stop. While I take my break, a servitor will maintain my position. Its efficiency will be compared to mine. Another test. The nutrition station dispenses another bowl of gray slurry identical to breakfast. I remove my respirator just enough to consume it, careful not to spill. The air burns my exposed mouth and throat, rich with chemical fumes and metallic particles. I finish quickly and replace the mask, grateful for its filtered protection. As I eat, I observe my fellow workers. Most are like me, middle-aged and worn down by decades of service. Some are newer, their movements still stiff and uncertain, their eyes still capable of showing fear. Few are old. The manufacturing takes its toll. Those who survive 40 years of service are granted retirement, which means reassignment to less critical tasks until death. Across the room, an Adeptus Mechanicus tech priest is berating a worker. Even from this distance, I can see the worker shaking, head bowed in submission. The tech priest's meschandrites wave in agitation, one of them holding something small and crystalline, a damaged focusing crystal. Then I look away. There is nothing to be gained by witnessing what comes next. The bell sounds again. Break over. I return to my station and resume the endless work. Hours pass. My world narrows to the circle of light above my workstation. Crystal housing, alignment securing, testing, next unit. My mind wanders even as my hands continue their work. It is dangerous to let thoughts drift too far, but sometimes it is the only way to endure. I think of my life before the manufacturum. Fragmented memories of a childhood on an agri world, green fields under an open sky. The smell of earth and growing things, a woman's voice singing songs I can no longer remember. These memories feel like they belong to someone else. Some other Jorhalden who died long ago. I was 16 when the tithe ships came. The Imperium required workers for its forges. Our planet had failed to meet its food production quotas for 3 consecutive years. The Administrum calculated that our world would better serve the Emperor by providing human resources instead. They took 1 in 5 of us. I was standing in the wrong place at the wrong time. A sharp pain in my hand jerks me back to the present. I have allowed a calibration key to slip, pinching flesh between metal tools. Blood wells from the small wound, threatening to contaminate the lasgun components. Quickly, I press my hand against my uniform, stemming the flow. If the overseer notices blood on the production line, I will face lashing at minimum. My heart pounds as I glance up at the monitoring servitors. None seem to have noticed my lapse. The Emperor protects, as they say. Though in my experience, the Emperor is selective about who receives his protection. I return to work, ignoring the throbbing pain in my hand. Crystal housing, alignment securing, testing. Next unit. The rhythm restores itself, monotonous and comforting in its predictability. In the Imperium, routine is sanctuary, deviation is death. The hours blur together. My body operates on muscle memory while my mind retreats to that quiet place where time passes more quickly. It is not sleep, not quite disassociation, but something between a necessary skill and the manufacture. A distant boom shakes the floor beneath my feet, strong enough to make the crystals in their storage containers rattle. Several workers pause, heads lifting in alarm. The overseer immediately notices. Continue production. The tech priest's amplified voice booms across the floor. External disruptions are of no concern to the faithful. The machine god demands your focus. Rumors spread in whispers despite the warning. Rebellion in the lower levels. Xenos infiltration, chaos cultists. Each theory more unlikely than the last. The truth is simpler. In a hive city as vast and ancient as Karos, infrastructure failures are common. Probably a Prometheum line rupturing or a generatorium overloading. Still, the disruption leaves an uneasiness in the air. The Imperium thrives on stability, on the unchanging repetition of days. Any break in the pattern, however small, feels like a harbinger of worse to come. I force my attention back to my work. Crystal housing, alignment securing, testing, next unit. The familiar sequence calms my nerves. Whatever happens outside this manufacturum is beyond my control. My duty is here in this moment, serving the Imperium in the only way I know how. As the shift wears on, the pain in my back intensifies. Hot needles of agony shoot up my spine with every movement. The augment attachments grind against bone when I bend forward. I have requested maintenance twice in the past year. Both requests were denied. The Mechanicus priest determined that my discomfort did not impact productivity enough to warrant repair. I adjust my posture slightly, seeking relief that doesn't come. Across from me, a younger worker is struggling to maintain pace. His hands shake visibly as he handles the focusing crystals. Sweat drips from his brow despite the environmental controls signs of stim withdrawal. The black market for combat stims thrives in the lower levels. Many workers use them to endure longer shifts or take on additional duties for extra rations. The addiction is as inevitable as it is fatal. I do not make eye contact. His weakness is not my concern. In the manufacturum, survival requires a certain moral flexibility. Compassion is a luxury few can afford. The warning klaxon sounds, signaling the final hour of the shift. Production quotas appear on the view screens, individual and collective. Section 12 is 3% below expected output. Not dire, but enough to ensure that tomorrow's shift will begin with a lecture on duty and sacrifice. Perhaps even an object lesson if the tech priests are feeling particularly zealous. I check my personal quota to 97%. Acceptable but not exemplary. I increase my pace slightly, ignoring the protests from my body. The last hour of a shift is always the most dangerous. Fatigue dulls reflexes and clouds judgment. More accidents occur in this hour than the rest of the shift combined. The worker across from me drops a crystal. The sound of it shattering on the floor seems impossibly loud in the cavernous space. All movement nearby stops. All eyes fix on the floor where fragments of priceless crystal glitter under the harsh lights. The young man makes a small wounded sound behind his respirator. His eyes are wide with terror. I should look away. I know what comes next. Two security servitors converge on the workstation before the worker can even attempt to explain or apologize. Their augmentatic hands close around his arms, lifting him bodily from the floor. His feet kick uselessly in the air. Worker designation KTH77902R. 1 intones. You have committed an offense against the Omnissiah. The punishment is immediate correction. No one watches as they drag him away. No one wants to witness what correction entails. We all focus intently on our work as if productivity can shield us from a similar fate. In a way, it can. The production line closes ranks. Another worker steps into the empty position without being instructed to do so. The rhythm continues unbroken. Crystal housing alignment securing testing. Next unit, the Imperium endures because we endure. We endure because we must. The final bell sounds. I complete one last assembly, carefully ensuring all tools are returned to their proper positions. The workstation must be left exactly as it was found, ready for the night shift that will arrive in 30 minutes. I run through the shutdown litany, thanking the machine spirits for their cooperation and promising to return. The rituals may seem nonsensical, but the tech priests insist that the machines respond better to workers who show proper reverence. My muscles scream in protest as I straighten up. 12 hours hunched over delicate work has left me stiff and aching. I roll my shoulders carefully, feeling the grind of metal against bone with every movement. The line files out in the same orderly fashion it arrived. No pushing, no rush. Energy conservation is paramount after a full shift. Many will need to perform domestic duties before rest period begins. Laundry, minor repairs to living quarters, perhaps an hour in one of the communal prayer halls if their devotional quotas are behind. As I pass through the security checkpoint, the guards scan my tool belt to ensure nothing has been taken. Theft of Mechanicus property is among the gravest offenses a worker can commit. The punishment is not death, but something far worse. Those caught stealing are given to the tech priest for servitor conversion. Their minds wiped, their bodies augmented with crude machinery. They continue to serve the Imperium without memory or will. Once clear of the checkpoint, I join the crowd heading for the elevators. The return journey is always quieter than the morning commute. Exhaustion hangs heavy in the air. Few have the energy for even whispered conversation. I notice arbitrator patrols moving through the crowd, their black carapace armor and stern faces standing out among the gray uniforms. They scan faces, occasionally stopping workers for random identity verification. Failure to provide proper identification results in detention at minimum. Many who are detained never return. The arbitrators pass me by. My face is unmemorable, my demeanor appropriately subdued. Invisibility is survival in hive chaos. The elevator ascends with the same sickening speed with which it descended this morning. My stomach lurches as it climbs 50 levels in seconds. The same bodies press against me, now carrying the added sense of Dayong labor. Someone sobs quietly in the corner of the car. No one acknowledges it. Back on the residential level, the crowd disperses gradually as workers return to their assigned HAB blocks. Mine is Habitation Block 447J, a 40-minute walk from the elevator banks. The corridors here are narrower, the ceiling lower. The walls bear the marks of age and neglect. Water stains trace patterns like alien script across the plasterite. In places, the metal support beams show through crumbling material. I pass a propaganda shrine where a small crowd has gathered. A 2-meter-tall statue of the God Emperor stands in a recessed alcove, his stern face watching over his subjects. Devotees kneel before it, heads bowed, lips moving in silent prayer. Incense burners fill the air with sweet-smelling smoke, a temporary relief from the ever-present industrial stench. I do not stop. My devotional quotota was fulfilled last week, and I lack the energy for additional observances. The God Emperor understands, or so I tell myself. He too knows the burden of endless duty. The corridors grow quieter as I move deeper into the residential zone. The main thoroughfares give way to smaller passages, branching like veins through the massive structure of the hive. Here the noise of machinery is muted, replaced by the sounds of human habitation. A child crying, a couple arguing behind closed doors, the hiss and pop of cheap cooking units. I pass a ration distribution center where a line has formed. Additional protein supplements are being issued to workers in critical production sectors. Not mine, unfortunately. The recipients shuffle forward slowly, presenting identification at each of 3 checkpoints. The supplements come in small green packages, each bearing the Imperial Aquila and a production date. A wall-mounted Vox unit crackles to life as I pass, broadcasting the evening prayer. I stop as is required, bowing my head until the 2-minute devotion concludes. The Emperor protects. I murmur along with the recorded voice, the words empty of meaning after countless repetitions. Ahead, a small crowd has gathered around a news terminal. This is unusual enough to catch my attention. Information is tightly controlled in the hive, disseminated on a need-to-know basis. Public announcements typically mean something significant has occurred. I edge closer, curious despite my exhaustion. The screen shows grainy-picked footage of a distant hive spire. Even through the poor quality of the recording, I can see that something is wrong. The upper portions of the structure are engulfed in flames. As I watch, a section of the spire crumbles, collapsing into the depths of the city below. Hive Tertius has been cleansed. Scrolls across the bottom of the screen. Heretical elements purged by the Emperor's holy fire. Loyal citizens rejoice in his justice. Whispers move through the gathered crowd. Hive Tertius was only 80 kilometers from Farthest, home to nearly 20 million souls. The cleansing mentioned so casually means all of them are dead or soon will be. No one asks what heresy was discovered there. No one suggests the response might be disproportionate. Such questions lead to cleansing of a more personal nature. The Emperor protects, someone says, breaking the uneasy silence. Others murmur agreement. The crowd begins to disperse, each person careful not to show too much interest or concern. Curiosity about imperial actions can be interpreted as doubt. Doubt is the first step toward heresy. I continue my journey home, the image of the burning hive fixed in my mind. This morning, 20 million people woke up, said their prayers, and went to work. They believed they were faithful servants of the Imperium. By evening, they were declared heretics and put to the flame. Such is life in the Imperium of man. Security is never certain. Loyalty is never enough. Faith is never unquestioned. I reach Habitation Block 447J as the lighting dims to evening levels. The building is a 30-story monolith of gray plascrete and rusted metal, indistinguishable from the hundreds of identical structures surrounding it. Home to approximately 12,000 workers and their dependent. A small community by hive standards. The entry checkpoint scans my identity chip and takes a blood sample. Standard procedure when returning from work shifts. They are checking for signs of chemical exposure, infection, or prohibited substances. The Medica Servitor processes the sample with mechanical efficiency. Worker KTH44729J cleared for entry. It announces elevated stress markers detected. Recommendation: increase fluid intake and prayer duration. I nod acknowledgement and pass through the security gate. The lobby beyond is sparsely furnished with metal benches bolted to the floor. A few residents sit there too exhausted to immediately climb to their assigned levels. I understand the feeling. The lift to the upper floors is out of service again. A sign indicates it will be repaired within 3 to 5 days. Emperor willing. I sigh behind my respirator and begin the long climb up 23 flights of stairs. By the 10th floor, my legs are trembling. By the 20th, each step is an act of pure will. The augment spine attachments send white-hot pain through my lower back. I pause frequently, leaning against the wall, gathering strength for the next section. Other residents pass me on the stairs, some ascending, others descending. We acknowledge each other with slight nods but do not speak. Energy conservation remains priority even here. Finally, I reach level 23. The corridor stretches in both directions. Identical doors spaced at regular intervals. The walls were once white but have yellowed with age and accumulated grime. The floor vibrates slightly with the constant operation of machinery in the levels below. My HEB unit 447J2342 is located midway down the eastern corridor. I press my palm against the identification plate. The door slides open with a protesting screech of poorly maintained tracks. Home, such as it is. I step inside and the door closes automatically behind me. For the first time since waking, I am alone. Truly alone, though I have no doubt the HEB unit contains monitoring devices. Privacy is a concept that exists only in the histories of ancient terror. The ritual of return is as structured as every other aspect of Imperial life. I remove my boots and place them in the sanitation cabinet. I hang my uniform on its designated hook. I clean my respirator filters and check them for damage. I wash my hands and face in the small sink using exactly 1 2-liter of water. Only then do I allow myself to sink onto the edge of my cot. My body aches in ways I have learned to accept as normal. The pain is a constant companion, as familiar as my own reflection. The wound on my hand has stopped bleeding but needs cleaning. I retrieve the small medical kit from beneath my cot. Imperial issue restocked once per month. Disinfectant, bandages, basic pain suppressants. I clean the cut carefully, apply disinfectant that burns like fire, and wrap it in a small bandage. The injury is minor. I will still be able to work tomorrow. My evening ration awaits in the nutrient dispenser. Another bowl of gray slurry, indistinguishable from breakfast and lunch. I stare at it for a long moment before deciding I am too tired to eat. The calories will be added to tomorrow's AOTment, a small luxury to look forward to. Instead, I lie back on my cot and stare at the ceiling. The lumen strips cast harsh shadows in the corners of the room. From somewhere beyond the walls, I hear the muted sounds of other lives. A child reciting evening prayers. The rhythmic whir of a portable oxygen concentrator. Someone weeping. I should complete my evening devotionals. Prayers to the Emperor for protection. Thanks to the machine god for continued function of augmetics. Liddies against mutation, heresy, and alien corruption. All are required according to Imperial doctrine. But tonight the words stick in my throat. The image of hive terte burning plays behind my eyelids when I close them. 20 million souls. An entire city declared heretical and destroyed without warning or apparent cause. It could be us next. It could be hive cars burning while residents of distant cities watch with carefully concealed fear. It could be me declared expendable by the same Imperium I have served faithfully for decades. The thought should terrify me. Instead, I feel a strange calm. In the Imperium, death comes in countless forms, quick or slow, deliberate or accidental, heroic or meaningless. The manner matters less than the certainty. No one escapes. The only variables are when and how. My breathing slows as exhaustion pulls me towards sleep. Through the small ventilation grill near the ceiling, I can see a tiny patch of night sky. No stars are visible through the industrial haze that perpetually shrouds the hive. Just darkness, uniform and absolute. In that moment, before consciousness slips away, I offer a prayer. Not to the Emperor or the machine god or any deity recognized by the Imperium. A simple private prayer to whatever force might govern the universe beyond human understanding. Thank you for one more day. Thank you that it was not worse. Thank you that tomorrow might be better, though I know it will not be. Then darkness claims me, and for a few precious hours I am free. I dream of fire, not the controlled inferno of the manufacturum forges, but wild, consuming flame that devours everything in its path. In my dream, I stand at the edge of hive and watch as the conflagration approaches. The massive spires burn like candles, black smoke spiraling up to blot out the sun. I feel no fear, only a strange sense of inevitability. This is how all things end in the Imperium, in fire, in destruction, in the name of a god emperor who demands sacrifice without end. The dream shifts as dreams do. I am walking through the burning hive, but the inhabitants continue their routines as if nothing is amiss. Workers assemble las guns while flames lick at their uniforms. Administrators stamp documents as their skin blackens and peels. Children recite imperial catechisms while their hair smolders. No one runs. No one screams. This is simply another hardship to be endured in service to the Imperium. I try to warn them, but when I open my mouth, only ash pours out. The alarm hymn jerks me from sleep, the familiar 14 notes dragging me back to consciousness. For a moment I lie still, disoriented by the transition from dream to reality. My body aches more than usual, stiff from sleeping in one position. The wound on my hand throbs dully. The chronometer reads 0430. Another day begins. I perform my morning abitunions with practiced efficiency. Prayer cloth to forehead. Mechanicus litany of awakening. Uniform on. Identity confirmed at the nutrient dispenser. Gray slurry consumed without tasting it. Boots laced, respirator checked and sealed. Only when I check the notification panel do I realize something is different. My work assignment has changed. Section 8, Level 39, Maintenance Crew D. I stare at the screen, uncomprehending. I have worked lasgun assembly for 3 years without variation. Changes in assignment are uncommon unless requested by a supervisor or necessitated by production quotas. The screen cycles to the next message before I can consider the implications further. Water rationing increased 1.5 L per day. 22 executions scheduled for heresy. Thought for the day. An open mind is like a fortress with its gates unbarred and unguarded. 1.5 L. The reduction is significant. A full half-liter less than yesterday. Something has happened to the water purification systems, or perhaps the aquifers beneath the hive are finally running dry. Either way, the timing is concerning. I exit my HAB unit precisely on schedule, joining the river of gray uniforms in the corridor. The mood is different this morning. Tension hangs in the air, almost palpable. Conversations are conducted in whispers rather than silence. Eyes dart nervously. Something has changed. I catch fragments as I walk. Turs was just the beginning. They say it was mutation. Entire bloodlines contaminated. Arbitrators took my neighbor last night. Just knocked down the door and dragged him away. Production quotas increased again. Impossible to meet them now. I keep my head down and my pace steady. Information is dangerous in the Imperium. Knowledge invites scrutiny. Better to remain ignorant and obedient than informed and suspect. The wait for the elevators seems longer than usual. When one finally arrives, it is already packed beyond capacity, but we squeeze in regardless. The car descends with that familiar stomach-churning drop, but stops before reaching the manufacturum levels. Armed arbitrators board at level 32, their black carapace armor intimidating among the gray worker uniforms. Identity check. One announces, his voice amplified by his helmet vox. Remain still. They move through the crowded elevator, scanning identity chips with handheld Orspex units. Each worker is required to recite their designation and current assignment. Any hesitation is met with harsh questioning. I prepare my response, repeating it silently to myself. The arbitrator reaches me, scanner hovering over my left wrist where the identity chip was implanted during induction. The device beeps affirmation. Designation and assignment, he demands. Worker KTH44729J, assigned to Section 8, Level 39, Maintenance Crew D. I respond, keeping my voice steady. Despite the unusual nature of my new posting, the arbitrator pauses, comparing the information to his data slate. My heart rate increases. Has there been an error? Am I caught in some administrative mistake that will end with my detention? Proceed, he finally says, moving to the next worker. I exhale slowly behind my respirator, relief washing through me. Whatever is happening, I am not the target. Not today, at least. The elevator continues its descent to level 39, where I exit along with a handful of others. This level is unfamiliar territory, while the basic layout of the hive is consistent. Each production level has its own character, its own dangers. Level 39 is older than my usual posting. The ceiling is lower, the corridors narrower. Pipes and conduits run exposed along the walls, many leaking steam or fluid. The air is heavier here, thick with moisture and the smell of rust. My respirator filters labor to process it. I follow directional signs towards Section 8, passing through areas dedicated to different aspects of production. A munitions testing range where the crack of gunfire echoes continuously. A chemical processing plant that reeks even through my respirator. A vast sorting facility where servitors separate recyclable materials from the hive's waste. Security checkpoints are more numerous here, each staffed by grim-faced guards and scanning servitors. At the third checkpoint, a tech priest inspects my documentation personally, his augment eye whirring as it focuses on my identification card. Your skills assessment indicates no experience in maintenance operations, he notes, his voice a metallic rasp. I go where the Imperium requires me, I respond, the standard answer to any questioning of assignment. The tech priest studies me for a moment longer, then nods. The Omnissiah finds use for all tools, even those poorly suited to the task, not reassuring. But he waves me through nonetheless. Section 8 proves to be a massive chamber dominated by a network of pipes, tanks, and filtration systems, the water purification plant for the upper levels of hive cars. Now the increased rationing makes sense. If there are issues here, the effects would ripple throughout the hive. A foreman waits near the entrance, sorting through new arrivals. His uniform bears the stripes of a lifetime worker, someone who has survived long enough to earn minor authority. His face is deeply lined, one eye replaced with a crude augmentic that glows faintly red. College 44729J, he says as I approach. Not a question, he knows who I am expected. Maintenance Crew D is addressing a contamination issue in Filtration System 12. Take this kit and report to Overseer Mathesy. He hands me a heavy tool belt and a data slate with schematics of the filtration system. I buckle the belt around my waist. The tools are unfamiliar, their purpose not immediately obvious. The data slate displays a complex network of pipes, valves, and purification chambers with one section highlighted in red, the contamination presumably. I have no training for this work, I admit, taking a risk by expressing inadequacy. The foreman's expression doesn't change. None of you do. The regular maintenance crews are gone. Gone. The word hangs in the air between us, heavy with implication. Gone could mean many things in the Imperium, none of them good. Transferred, executed, converted to servitors, consumed by whatever contamination we are now being sent to address. The Omnissiah provides knowledge to those who serve faithfully, the foreman adds, the standard platitude when workers are assigned beyond their competence. Translation: figure it out or face the consequences. I follow the directional markers toward Filtration System 12, moving deeper into the labyrinth of machinery. The temperature rises as I walk, the air growing more humid. Condensation drips from overhead pipes. The floor is slick with moisture and something darker, something that leaves smears when I step in it. The sound changes too. The usual mechanical rhythm of the manufacturum gives way to something less predictable. Groans and cacks from stressed metal, the gurgle of liquid through pipes, and underneath it all a constant faint buzzing that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I find Maintenance Crew D gathered around a massive cylindrical tank, easily 10 meter tall and 5 meter in diameter. A dozen workers in standard gray uniforms stand in a loose semicircle, watching as a tech priest examines a control panel. Their postures communicate the same uncertainty I feel. Overseer Mathesy proves to be a stocky woman with close-cropped gray hair and a prosthetic right arm of obvious military design. Not Mechanicus issue, but Astro Militarum, a veteran then reassigned to civilian duty. Such transitions are rare but not unheard of. The Imperium wastes nothing, especially not those with specialized training. Another one, she says, noticing my approach. Any maintenance experience? No, Overseer. I admit I was reassigned this morning from Lay's gun assembly. She sighed, the sound amplified by her respirator. Same as the others. They clean out the trained crews and send us untested replacements. The Mechanicus works in mysterious ways. The last part is spoken loudly enough for the tech priest to hear. A show of proper difference. Mathesy gathers us closer and activates a holithic projector built into her augmentatic arm. A three-dimensional schematic of the filtration tank appears in the air before us. Filtration System 12 processes approximately 30% of the water supply for the upper $200 levels of the hive, she explains. 3 days ago, monitoring servitors detected contamination in the outflow. Biological in nature, the first maintenance crew attempted to clean the system. They reported partial success before communication was lost. Lost, there it is again. That ominous word. A second crew was dispatched yesterday, Mathesy continues. They managed to isolate the contamination to the primary filter chamber, but failed to eliminate it. Their final report indicated unusual growth patterns within the filters themselves. What kind of biological contamination? One worker asks. A valid question. The nature of the threat determines the approach to containing it. Mathesy glances at the tech priest who has finished with the control panel and now stands watching our briefing. He inclines his head slightly. Permission granted. Unknown, she says, lowering her voice. The samples defied standard classification. The biology's priests have been consulted. My mouth goes dry. Unknown biological contaminants mean one of two things in the Imperium: Xenos infestation or chaos corruption. Either is potentially catastrophic for a hive city. Our task is straightforward. Mathisi continues. All business despite the ominous implications. We will enter the primary filter chamber, remove and replace the contaminated filter elements, and sterilize the chamber with promethium burners. Standard protocols for biological hazards apply. She begins assigning roles. 2 to monitor the intake and outflow valves, 3 to handle the replacement filters, 4 to operate the promethium burners. The rest, including me, will physically remove the contaminated elements. The chamber must be drained before we enter, she explains. The process takes approximately 20 minutes. During that time, review the schematics and familiarize yourselves with the filter extraction procedure. I spend those 20 minutes studying the data slate, trying to understand the complex system. I'll soon be working on the primary filter chamber sits at the heart of the system, where water passes through a series of increasingly fine mesh elements designed to capture particulate and biological contaminants. The filters should be white ceramic composite, easy to remove with the proper tools, easy to recognize when they need replacement. The warning klaxon sounds indicating the chamber is fully drained. Mathisi leads us to a circular hatch in the side of the tank. It hisses as it unseals. Swing outward on massive hinges. Respirators on full seal, she orders. No skin exposure. The contamination has not been confirmed airborne, but we take no chances. I adjust my respirator, activating the auxiliary filters. The face seal tightens uncomfortably against my skin. I pull the hood of my uniform up and secure it, ensuring no gap between it and the respirator. The gloves are last. Thick material designed to resist both physical and chemical hazards. I feel clumsy in the full protective gear, my movements restricted. Emperor, protect, someone mutters as we approach the open hatch. The Emperor protects those who protect themselves. Mathisi responds sharply. Stay alert, follow procedures, and we all walk out of here alive. One by one, we enter the chamber. A narrow metal catwalk leads from the hatch to a central platform where the main filter assembly is located. The interior of the tank is cavernous, the walls curving up to a domed ceiling some 15 meters above. Emergency lumens cast a dim reddish glow over everything. The smell hits me first, even through the respirator. Sweet and rotten, like fruit left too long in the sun. The filter should be odorless. This is our first confirmation that something is very wrong. As we reach the central platform, I get my first clear view of the contamination. The filter elements, which should be arranged in neat uniform rows, have been distorted. They bulge outward in places, the ceramic material stretched like fabric, and the color is wrong. Instead of white, they have taken on a pinkish hue with dark veins running through the material. Throne of Terror, someone whispers. The surface of the filters glistens with moisture, but it isn't water. The liquid is too viscous, too dark. It pulsates slightly as if responding to our presence, and that buzzing sound I noticed earlier is louder here, emanating from the filters themselves. Proceed as planned, Mathisi orders, her voice tight. Removal team, begin extraction of the primary elements. Sterilization team, prepare the burners. Valve monitors, maintain position at the access points. I move forward with 3 other workers approaching the distorted filters. Up close, the wrongness of them is even more apparent. The ceramic material seems almost alive, shifting subtly as we watch. The dark veins pulse with slow rhythmic contractions. We should request biologist support, one worker says, hesitation clear in his voice. This is beyond standard contamination protocols. The request has been submitted, Mathisi replies. Our orders are to proceed with decontamination. The hive cannot afford disruption to the water supply. I understand the calculus at work. Millions depend on this water. Delay means suffering, possibly death. But something about this contamination triggers deep instinctual warnings. This is not normal. This is not safe. Still, orders are orders. I select a filter extraction tool from my belt and step forward. The device is designed to clamp onto the filter housing and twist it free from its mounting. Simple enough in theory. I position the tool on the nearest filter element, trying to ignore the way the surface seems to recoil from the metal. The clamps engage with a hydraulic hiss. I begin to twist, applying steady pressure, as indicated in the training schematic. The filter doesn't budge. I increase the pressure, straining against unexpected resistance. The housing should rotate easily. releasing the filter for extraction. Instead, it feels as if the material is actively fighting removal. Increase hydraulic pressure, Mathesy suggests, watching my struggle. Sometimes the housings corrode in position. I adjust the tool, boosting the pressure to maximum. With a sudden wet tearing sound, the filter breaks free, but instead of coming out cleanly, it stretches like something organic, long strands of material extending between the filter and its housing. Dark fluid sprays from the connection point, splattering across my protective gear. The fluid hisses where it lands, eating through the material with frightening speed. I stumble backward, frantically, wiping at the dissolving spots on my uniform. Caustic agent, Mathesy shouts, emergency protocols. Neutralizing spray. Another worker rushes forward with a canister, spraying a chalky substance over the affected areas of my uniform. The corrosion stops, but the damage is done. There are holes in my protective gear now, exposing me to whatever contamination fills this chamber. The buzzing sound intensifies, changing pitch. The filter I partially removed is pulsating more rapidly now, the dark fluid oozing from the tear, and within that fluid I see movement, tiny shapes writhing and multiplying before my eyes. Back to the hatch, Mathesy orders, her voice cutting through my rising panic. Controlled withdrawal, maintain decontamination protocols. We begin retreating toward the catwalk, moving in careful, measured steps despite the urge to run. The buzzing grows louder, seemingly coming from all directions. Now more of the filters begin to pulse in unison, dark fluid seeping from their housings. One worker breaks, turning to sprint toward the exit. His foot slips on the increasingly slick platform, sending him crashing to his knees. His hand lands in a puddle of the dark fluid, even from meters away. I hear his scream as it burns through his glove and into the flesh beneath. "Help him!" Mathesy commands, and two workers move to assist, pulling the injured man to his feet. The skin of his exposed hand is already blackening, the flesh seeming to shift and bubble. We reach the catwalk, moving single file toward the hatch. I am third from the back, with only Mathesy and another worker behind me. The injured man is ahead, supported between two others, his breathing rapid and shallow inside his respirator. I risk a glance back at the central platform. What I see freezes my blood. The filters are changing, bulging outward, splitting along their seams, and from within those splits emerge shapes that no filter should contain. Tendrils, appendages, things that twitch and grasp at the air. The buzzing is deafening now, resolving into something that sounds disturbingly like distant myriad voices. "Move faster," Mathesy urges, her hand on my shoulder, pushing me forward. Do not look back again. We reach the hatch, passing through one by one. The light of the outer chamber seems blindingly bright after the dim red emergency lighting inside the tank. Mechanicus priests and security personnel wait outside, their weapons trained on the hatch. "Seal it," Mathesy orders as soon as the last of us is clear. "Initiate emergency sterilization protocol Omega-7. The hatch swings closed with hydraulic force, locking mechanisms engaging with heavy metallic sounds. A tech priest approaches the control panel, entering a complex sequence of commands. Warning klaxons begin to sound. "Clear the area," he inwants, his augment voice carrying over the alarms. "Sterilization imminent." We are ushered away from the filtration tank, moving toward a decontamination chamber at the far end of the section. The injured worker has collapsed, his breathing now a wet gurgle behind his respirator. The blackness has spread from his hand up his arm, visible through tears in his uniform, and within that blackness something moves beneath the skin. The decontamination chamber is a sterile white space with high-pressure spray nozzles in the ceiling and walls. We are instructed to remove all protective gear and clothing, placing them in hermetically sealed containers for disposal. The modesty typically enforced in the Imperium is suspended during decontamination procedures. Survival takes precedence over propriety. As I strip off my uniform, I examine my body for any sign of contamination. The dark fluid didn't reach my skin as far as I can tell. Small blessing. The worker who fell is not so fortunate. Medicaid personnel in sealed environmental suits have taken him to a separate chamber. I doubt he will return. The decontamination spray activates without warning. A high-pressure mist that smells of industrial disinfectant and burns slightly where it contacts skin. We turn slowly, arms extended, allowing the chemicals to reach every surface of our bodies. The process repeats 3 times, each with a different formula designed to eliminate biological, chemical, and radiological contaminants, respectively. When it finally ends, we are provided with fresh uniforms and basic respirators. An administrative official waits beyond the chamber, data slate in hand. You will report to Medicaid Level 12 for observation and testing, he announces. Transportation has been arranged. You will remain in isolation until cleared by biologist personnel. No one argues. We have all seen enough to understand the severity of the situation. Whatever was growing in those filters was not natural, not normal contamination. The implications are too terrible to voice aloud. As we are escorted to the transport elevator, I notice additional security forces moving into Section 8. Soldiers in the carapace armor of Hive Defense Forces, not merely arbitrators. They carry heavier weapons than the standard-issue lasguns, including flamers and what appear to be chemical sprayers. Their presence confirms my worst fears. This is not a simple maintenance issue. This is a potential catastrophe. The elevator rises swiftly to Medicaid Level 12, a secure facility dedicated to handling outbreaks and contamination events. I have never been here before, never had reason to visit. The sterile white corridors and sealed chambers speak to its purpose. This is where the Imperium contains threats to public health by any means necessary. We are separated upon arrival, each led to an individual observation room. Mine is small, perhaps 3 meters square, with a medical cot, a sink, and a waste disposal unit. The walls are smooth white material that can be easily sterilized. A large observation window allows Medicaid staff to monitor me without entering. There are restraint straps on the cot. I try not to think about why they might be necessary. A Vox unit in the ceiling crackles to life. Remain seated on the examination cot. A Medicare official will attend shortly. Compliance is mandatory. I sit as instructed, hands folded in my lap to stop their trembling. The events in the filtration chamber play in my mind on repeat. The pulsing filters, the caustic fluid, the shapes emerging from within, the buzzing that sounded like voices, all consistent with certain types of Xenos infestation. Or worse, the corruption of the ruinous powers. The door to the observation room slides open. A medic technician enters, clad in a sealed environmental suit. His face is visible behind the clear faceplate, expression grim and professional. He carries a data slate and several medical implements I do not recognize. Worker designation KTH44729J, he says, consulting the data slate. You were exposed to an unknown biological contaminant during maintenance operations on Filtration System 12. Yes, I confirm, but my protective gear remained intact except for surface damage. The contaminant did not reach my skin. He nods, making a notation. Nevertheless, full screening is required. You will undergo physical examination, blood testing, and psychic evaluation. The last item sends a chill through me. Psychic evaluation means they suspect warp influence, chaos, corruption, the most feared of all contaminations. The examination is thorough and uncomfortable. Every cyme of skin is scrutinized for discoloration or unusual growth. Blood is drawn from both arms. Tissue samples are taken from inside my cheek. A machine passes over my body, emitting soft pulses of blue light, measuring something I cannot comprehend. Throughout the process, the technician asks questions. When did I first notice the contamination? Did I hear anything unusual? Did I experience any thoughts that seemed foreign or intrusive? Did I feel any unusual compulsions or desires? The questions become increasingly pointed, increasingly concerned with my mental state rather than physical symptoms. Standard protocol, he assures me when he notices my growing unease. But his eyes tell a different story. He is looking for signs of something specific, something he fears to find. When the physical examination concludes, I am instructed to lie back on the cot. A device like a metal circlet is placed around my head, cold against my temples. This will measure brain activity and psychic resonance. The technician explains. You may experience mild discomfort or unusual sensations. This is normal. Report anything you see or hear immediately. The device activates with a soft hum. At first I feel nothing beyond a slight pressure at my temples. Then the sensation changes. A buzzing not in my ears but inside my mind, familiar. The same buzzing from the filtration chamber, but now internalized. I hear it, I report. Alarm rising in my voice. The buzzing from the tank. It's in my head. The technician's expression tightens. He makes a notation on his data slate, then reaches for a Vox unit at his belt. Potential positive observation room 7. He reports Class 3 resonance detected, requesting telepathic consultation. My heart races. Class 3 resonance, telepathic consultation. These terms are associated with warp contamination, with the influence of chaos. I am being flagged as potentially corrupted. I feel fine, I insist. Panic threatening to overwhelm me. I'm loyal to the Emperor. I've served faithfully for decades. The technician's expression softens slightly. This is precautionary worker. The resonance could be environmental exposure only, not internal contamination. The telepathica adept will determine your status definitively. Cold comfort. The Adeptus Telepatha are not known for their leniency or their margin for error. Those they deem corrupted are dealt with permanently, often along with anyone who had close contact with them. I could be facing execution based on their assessment. Try to remain calm, the technician advises, though he backs toward the door as he speaks. Agitation can influence the readings. The Emperor protects the faithful. He exits, leaving me alone with the humming device around my head and the growing buzz inside my mind. Isolation is standard procedure when contamination is suspected. No one wants to risk exposure. No one wants to be near the potentially corrupted when judgment comes. I close my eyes, trying to control my breathing to slow my racing heart. Panic will only make things worse. I must remain composed, cooperative, show no signs that could be misinterpreted. The buzzing intensifies, resolving into patterns that almost seem like language, words just beyond comprehension. Meanings hovering at the edge of understanding. I grit my teeth, trying to block it out to focus on imperial prayers and leadis instead. Emperor, protect your servant. Machine God, preserve this vessel. Omnissiah, guard against corruption. The words of devotion feel hollow, mechanical. They do not drown out the buzzing, do not stop the almost words from forming in my mind. I press my hands against the surlet, irrationally hoping to silence it through physical means. Though I know the sound is not coming from the device, but from within. Time passes, minutes or hours, I cannot tell. The lighting in the observation room remains constant, giving no indication of the passage of time. Mic chronometer was taken during decontamination, another form of isolation. This temporal disorientation, another method of control. Eventually, the door slides open again. 2 figures enter. The medic technician returns accompanied by a woman in the crimson robes of the Adeptus Telepathica. Her head is shaved, revealing electos and augment implants across her scalp. A third eye, mechanical and gleaming, is set into her forehead. She regards me with an expression devoid of emotion. Worker KTH44729J, she says, her voice flat and precise. I am a depth veil. I will assess your psychic status and determine if you have been compromised by your exposure to the contamination event. I sit up straighter, trying to project confidence and compliance. I am prepared, adept. I have nothing to hide. I serve the Emperor faithfully. She does not acknowledge my declaration of loyalty. Such words mean nothing to the telepatha. They deal in deeper truths than spoken oaths. Remove the scanning surlet, she instructs the technician. I will conduct a direct assessment. The device is lifted from my head, but the buzzing remains. If anything, it intensifies in the presence of the telepathica adept. The almost words grow more insistent, more coherent. I can almost understand them now, almost hear what they are trying to tell me. Adept Vale approaches, standing directly before me. Her augmentatic third eye whirs as it focuses, mechanical iris contracting. She raises her hands, holding them on either side of my head without touching me. The air between us seems to thicken, to vibrate with unseen energy. Do not resist, she says. Resistance will be interpreted as evidence of corruption. Then her mind touches mine. There is no physical sensation, no clear delineation between before and after. One moment I am alone in my thoughts. The next there is another presence, cold and alien and methodical, moving through my mind like a surgeon's scalpel. She examines memories, emotions, thoughts with clinical detachment. Nothing is private. Nothing is sacred. All is exposed to her scrutiny. The buzzing reaches a crescendo as she probes deeper. The almost words suddenly clarify, becoming actual words, not in High Gothic or any human language, but somehow understandable nonetheless. They speak of freedom from pain, of escape from endless toil, of transformation and transcendence. They offer release from the grinding oppression of imperial life. They are lies, seductive, beautiful lies, the whispers of chaos, promising everything while preparing to take all. I recoil mentally, rejecting the words with every fiber of my being. Not from loyalty to the Imperium, which has given me nothing but pain and servitude, but from understanding of what chaos truly offers. Not freedom, but a different, more terrible form of slavery. Adept Vale's presence in my mind shifts, focusing on this rejection, this moment of choice. I feel her surprise, quickly suppressed. She had expected corruption, expected to find a mind already compromised. Instead, she found resistance. Her mental touch withdraws abruptly, leaving me gasping. The buzzing recedes, fading to a barely perceptible hum, then to nothing. Silence returns. Flaccid silence inside my skull. Interesting. A depth veil says her expression unchanged despite what must have been an unusual experience. The worker shows exposure to Class 3 warp resonance, but no signs of contamination. The contact was surface level only. The mind remains loyal if unusually aware. The technician looks relieved. So he can be cleared, return to normal duties. The adept considers for a moment, not immediately. There will be residual resonance for several days. Recommend observation for 1 week followed by reassessment. If no development of symptoms, conditional clearance can be granted. 1 week in isolation, better than execution or conversion to a servitor. The usual fates of those exposed to warp influence. I should feel relieved, grateful even. Instead, I feel only exhaustion. What was the contamination? I dare to ask, though questioning a telepatha adept is risky. What was growing in the filtration system? Adept Vale looks at me. Her human eyes as cold and mechanical as her augment one. Information restricted. You have no need to know. But she knows I already do know, at least in part. She saw it in my mind. The filters were not just contaminated. They were changing, transforming into something that was neither mechanical nor fully organic, a melding of machine and flesh guided by warp influence. The beginning stages of a demon engine, perhaps, or something equally heretical. The filtration system has been purged, she says, finally offering the small mercy of confirmation. The contamination contained? Hive Farthest remains secure. For now, her tone implies. The Imperium is under constant threat. Eternal vigilance required against enemies without and within. Today's victory does not guarantee tomorrow's survival. You will remain in observation, the technician informs me. His manner more respectful now that the telepathica adept has deemed me uncontaminated. Food, water, and basic amenities will be provided. Compliance with all Medicaid directives is mandatory. I nod, accepting the situation. 1 week of isolation is a small price for survival. Many of my fellow maintenance crew members may not have been so fortunate. I think of the worker whose hand was directly exposed, whose skin blackened and shifted before our eyes. I doubt the telepatha found his mind as resistant as mine. As they turn to leave, a depth veil pauses at the door. Your rejection of the whispers was unexpected, she says, not looking back at me. Few have the strength to resist when offered release from imperial burden. Remember that strength in the days to come. You will need it. Then they are gone. The door sliding shut and locking automatically. I'm alone again, confined to this sterile white room for the next week. Alive, uncontaminated, but changed nonetheless. I lie back on the cot staring at the ceiling. The lumen panels here are steadier than those in my hab unit, the light constant and unwavering. No shadows move in the corners. No sounds penetrate from beyond the walls. It is the most peaceful environment I have experienced in decades of imperial service. And yet sleep does not come. My mind replays the events of the day, searching for meaning in what happened. Why was I reassigned to that maintenance crew? Why today of all days, coincidence is rare in the Imperium. Administrative errors happen, but seldom without purpose. Perhaps it was a test. Perhaps someone in authority needed workers without maintenance experience. Workers who would report what they saw rather than attempt to handle it themselves. Expendable workers whose contamination or death would not impact critical production. Or perhaps it was simply bad luck, the random cruelty of life in the Imperium of man. Not everything has meaning or purpose. Sometimes survival is merely a matter of chance. As exhaustion finally pulls me towards sleep, one thought surfaces from the depths of my mind. The telepathic adept seemed surprised by my resistance to the whispers, as if such resistance was unusual. As if most Imperial citizens, when offered escape from their burden of endless toil and suffering, would accept without hesitation. What does that say about the Imperium that its loyal servants would so readily embrace its enemies, if only to escape its yoke? With that disquing thought, sleep claims me at last. This time I do not dream of fire but of water. Dark water flowing through the veins of the hive like blood through a body. Water in which something grows, something waits, something whispers. And somewhere in the vast darkness of the cosmos, something listens for a commoner reply.